people got curious. You know the value of everything. You can quantify everything, but you were not able to quantify the speed. You were not able to, quantify what was happening in the engine, how much, what were the levels of fuels that were available. So the vehicle were breaking down at any point of time because there was no check on what was available, the fluids that were available in the vehicle. I am a mechanical engineer, so I am using those mechanical terms. So please excuse me for that. If you have any questions or doubts, please feel free to stop me and you can ask me then and there. So when an engine runs, it needs a lot of fuels and fluids to keep it self lubricated and serviced. So when the mechanic or when the person used to fill all those things, he didn't know when to refill it. He did not have a count. So it was just based on his calculations key and the driver's prospect, how the driver drives the vehicle, how the vehicle is being maintained. So meter gauges came into existence. That is how people started innovating things. Until the 1930s, there were no turn lights. You didn't have indicator signals to turn to show that you are going to the left or you go to the right. So there is a company named Buick in the US. They came up with innovation of turn lights. So everybody in the industry started bringing something new on the table. And one more great thing that Volvo came up with this point of 3-point seat belt. Till then, the automobiles came up with the 1-point seat belt that we have in the aircrafts. So in aircrafts, you just have a single point seat belt. You just strap your waist to the seat as you wear a belt. So that does not provide you enough safety for a head-on collision or when you are inside a cabin inside a car. So that is not for. So Volvo came up with this innovation. So every automotive manufacturer came up with something or other on the table, and that is how vehicles started to become great. And there is a small saying that I recently read. So in the back in the days, the elite had vehicles, and the normal people used to ride on horse, or used to ride animal pulled carts. Now it is the complete opposite. The elite have horses, and everybody drives the vehicle. So that is how things kept going, and that is what industrial revolution brought on the plate for automotive industry. You forward more after the 1940s, 1950s, India started making India's own indigenous vehicles. Hindustan Motors came up with their brand, with their line of vehicles, and the Ambassador, as we all know, is a legendary vehicle. Even if you see it on the road today, it is still an eye turner. And everybody started evolving according to their own designs, and people started liking them or not liking them. That is how industrial revolution happened. That is how industrial revolution actually happened. So if you have any to ask anything till now, or can I continue? One more thing that is very which came very late to the industry is the start with the key, or otherwise you would have to start the vehicle with the crank. So you would have to crank the engine using a lever, and the engine would crank, and then you can start the vehicle. You could actually see this in the auto rickshaws that we have, the old auto rickshaws, which were being used in the 19s or 1909s over here in India also. They have a rope attached to the engine, and they pull it after keeping the vehicle on lock. They pull this kind of rope, and the vehicle starts. So that is the hand crank mechanism that they have. After that, after the hand crank mechanism came the key start. So the spark plug was invented. So it gave the spark to the fuel, and the fuel started igniting, and the vehicle started on itself, rather than you have to pull a rope or you have to hand crank it. And then now we have touch push button start. You just start it on a push of a button. And now the innovation have grown so much that you can even start it with your key sitting at your home. You can start it with your mobile phone. So that is innovation that is going to happen. Evolution and innovation is something that has been constant since human evolution. So every time, everybody, whenever a decade changed, or somebody new came in the industry, they brought something new on the plate. And that is how automobiles evolved. The current day automobiles that you see, just imagine this: if the power steering would not have been invented, we would still have that not power not we would still have that prehistoric steering where you would have to turn the steering in whatever direction you want, and you would have to rotate it back for the vehicle to come on straight again. Now the power steering has such a great gives you such a great ability that you just need to turn it and leave the steering. It comes back to normal. It just goes in the straight direction. So yeah, this is how vehicles evolved from the prehistoric era to the current date. And now what we see, the future trend that is going to happen in the automobile industry is that AI powered vehicles, self driving vehicles, as we are hearing them now. Driverless vehicles. You do not need to have a driver to drive the vehicle. The vehicle will drive itself. And the vehicle will drive on internet. You could drive the vehicle being on the internet, as we see in those sci-fi movies, right? There is a very popular movie in Bollywood with the name Tarzan. The vehicle drives itself. We don't know how it happens, but yeah, it happens. The vehicle drives itself, self repairs itself, and refuels itself. So yeah, this they depicted in a movie, but that is the reality that's going to happen. That is going to take over the automobile industry. So yeah, when people started moving in four wheelers, there was a very big problem that was happening. There were no signals. People didn't know when to on an intersection. People didn't know when to stop, when to go, who should come first, whether I should come first or the person coming in front of me should come first. So there was chaos happening. And there is this incident that happened in London, I guess. There were only two vehicles on road, and they both ended up crashing into each other. The entire city had just two vehicles, and they still ended up crashing into each other because there was not proper infrastructure. So that is how the world also evolved with the vehicles. So when automobiles came into existence, before that, animals used to run on wet roads, and sand made roads on grass. They didn't have any problem. They just needed a flat surface so that the wheel does not get detached from the cart. So that was not a problem. But then when their own suspension, they had their own mechanism. They could not. They used to get stuck in the soil. They used to get stuck in the grass, in the slug or slush. But animals didn't have that problem. They just seemed to topple above it, or run above it, or jump above it. But vehicles started having this problem. So that is how industry evolved. Tarmac roads came into existence. Now we have cement paved roads. We have brick paved roads. So this is how the industry also evolved around automobiles. Industrial revolution came into places. Industry started setting up. Ford came up with their assembly line. Every company after that followed the same thing. Now we have assembly lines. So assembly lines gave employment to hundreds of people. But back in the days, there used to happen a lot of incidents used to happen. Something or the other, if something, and everything used to happen manually. There was just an assembly line where every worker, a worker who was specialized in some part, used to come and just attach the part to the vehicle, and the vehicle was completed at the end of the assembly line. But it was not very efficient. Now we have robots, we have machines doing the entire assembly of the vehicle. You do not need a single man. Manpower is eliminated over there. So this is how the industry is evolving around it. So yeah, cars came into existence, and the traffic also increased. Buses were already there, trucks were already there. Now cars are also there. So traffic started evolving, and people needed to travel from one place to the other even faster. But when horses were taking you from distance A to distance B in maybe 10 minutes, car was doing that in 5 minutes. But then as cars kept increasing, that 5 minutes changed to 15 minutes because of the amount of cars that were there on the road. So people came up with the innovation of two-wheelers. These two-wheelers, could go up into the small gaps and crevices that are available in those big cars, in the middle of those big cars and buses, and you were reaching the time, you were reaching the distance A to B in just 3-4 minutes. Now and then people started thinking about it, okay, how can we do? But the problem was the car engine could not be fitted inside a scooter, inside a two-wheeler. The car engine was so huge that that it was the size of a two-wheeler back then. So you had to reduce the size. You did not need enough. You did not need so much power to pull a scooter. The weight of the car was more than 1 ton or 2 tons, because back then the cars were just made of proper steel. You could you could make a proper advertisement of Ambuja cement or some steel brand, and it would have been great back then. So cars were very heavy. So for manufacturers to be able to pull that, just the car without the driver, they needed enormous energy of the engine. The engine had to be so powerful that it could pull the vehicle without it being stressed out. And adding people to that, and It is not just India. Back in the days, every country had, people didn't have the sense of sitting in the vehicle. If you saw a car, it was taking you from A to B, everybody jumped on it. Even if you could find a space to stand on it, people were standing and going out there. People were standing and going on the vehicle. So it is just not India, it was there everywhere. But then, yeah, they learned it faster than us. We still do that. If you see the buses in our city right now, people, they are, tilted to one side because of the people hanging on the bus. It used to happen there also, but then they made better rules than us, I guess. So let's not discuss that. It will become a very controversial topic if I start going into that. So yeah, so that is, engine had to be very powerful. But then industrial experts thought, what could we do if we could reduce the weight of the vehicle? If we reduce the weight of the vehicle, the same engine can go even faster. You could reach the same distance in an even smaller interval of time. So they thought of other elements, other materials that could be used to make the vehicle. They thought of making the chassis lighter. How could you make the chassis lighter? You could use the material which had the same properties of metal, but it gave similar strength. So yeah, they switched to alternatives, and that is how that industry also grew. So with the automobile industry, every industry is growing. Whenever there is an evolution coming, or whenever there is an innovation whenever there came an innovation in the automotive industry, every industry related to it also started growing, which also added, man force, which also gave employment to many people. Before the industrial revolution, 3 4 people were enough to make a vehicle, and there was no specific time. The customer also did not, there was no hurry for a customer to get the vehicle. Now if we go to a showroom, the first thing we ask for the dealer is which vehicle is available, which vehicle can we get as soon as possible, and that is the vehicle we prefer to buy. Some people do wait for vehicles, but the vehicle, we do not prefer to wait to get the delivery of the vehicle. Back in the day, it was not the case. uh, Revolution actually spoiled us. If we go out to buy a two-wheeler, and the dealer if just imagine this, if you are going to a showroom to buy a Honda Activa, and the guy there says that, sir, you need to wait for a week. Prefer to buy that vehicle. If you're getting another vehicle from another dealer, you will consider buying the second option, right? Because you're getting it then and now, because you're not problems. So yeah, that is how it evolved. And to date, what we see is that all the other things. So when the chassis got lighter, a lot of space was also, available in the vehicles to attach different things. Previously in the vehicles, you could not even put down the mirror. There was just you could not hold the air inside you. It was just a single the olden days Willys or Jeep models, or you can see those movie in the front, and the other vehicles on other windows are just as you can do in the buses. So you could was, enough to roll to the door. So that hand pulled crank mechanism of the which came into existence. That just command the vehicle and it will roll down windows for you. AI powered vehicle systems have come into existence now. And initially, when the vehicles came, they didn't even have the. You could just, the driver could just jump in the passenger, and that is how things used to happen. So yeah, people just had every manufacturer model of the vehicle, because people didn't care about the design. They just to travel from distance A to distance B, even what that was the ultimate motive. But then, as vehicles became popular, people wanted to be unique from
And there you
people.
go.
People wanted to stand out from others. So that is when manufacturers came up with different models. So you had a standard variant of the Sims vehicle, and then you had a more luxurious variant of the vehicle, which was used by the elite. So people wanted to flaunt their vehicles. They wanted to, it became a status. It became a status in the. It became a community status kind of thing. Now every manufacturer has more than 15 or 20 variants of a single vehicle. If the recently launched Mahindra XUV 700, it has 22 different variants in which you can choose from. 22 different variants of the same vehicle. So yeah, that is what people now want now. People do not actually care. There are many methods for people available to travel from distance A to distance B. So when you buy a vehicle, what you see is at what price you first of all you decide your budget, and the second thing that you look for is what is the best quality and what is the luxurious vehicle you can get in that budget. Let me ask you a question over here. You have a budget of 15 lakh rupees, and you have two options. You can buy a second hand old Mercedes, or you can buy a brand new Suzuki. What would you prefer? Anybody would like to answer that?
Maybe a brand new Suzuki.
Oh, cool.
New car.
A brand new Suzuki. See, yeah,
Brand new Suzuki.
absolutely. So this is how industry has evolved. You will not consider to buy the old Mercedes because a brand new Suzuki will give you more features than an old Mercedes. Am I right?
Yep.
Yes,
Back
yes.
in the sea, that is how industry has evolved. Industry, every manufacturer now thinks that these are the basic necessities that a person wants in a vehicle. uh, a recent trend in India which has started is the sunroofs. Everybody now wants a sunroof in their vehicle. So what manufacturers have done, they have made two variants. You have the super luxurious variant without a sunroof, and then you have a variant with the sunroof, and they have just above it. So you have to pay an extra premium. How could they manage to put a sunroof in the vehicle? It's just because of the innovation in chassis design, in how they have designed the chassis. Now the chassis is so slim, considering the early modern and prehistoric day automobile chassis, that you can easily put an entire glass frame above your head. So this is how they have evolved. Aluminum chassis have come into place, and everybody is developing their own chassis. I really respect Tata Motors over here because the chassis that they develop have great responses in crash tests. So that is how they have evolved. If you just see how, let's just see the example of how Tata Motors have evolved as a company. Just let's If we just go back 10 to 12 years, the top of the vehicle that they were selling was an Indica or a Manza or a Safari. Just look at their lineup now. How quickly have they evolved because of the customers, because of the evolution, because of the innovations that have come in the market. Now every Tata vehicle motors have the option of having a sunroof over your head. Could you even imagine having a sunroof in Indica or a Manza back then? Because that is what, yeah, people wanted a sunroof back then, but it was not a necessity. Now people think it as a statement. Like, क्या बोलते हैं उसको? It is considered as a statement. You having a sunroof on your vehicle is considered as a social statement that you have. Not just Tata Motors, every manufacturer has evolved in that manner, seeing what the people want, and every industry is interlinked. Whatever innovation, as I previously said, industries evolved when automobiles evolved. It is also the other way around. When other industries evolved, when the fashion industry evolved, when other industries which are not related to automobile industry started evolving, technology came into existing, computers came into existence. So people thought, how can you put the computer in the car? Now we have the touchscreen system. You can just control all your infotainment system, all your power windows, options, all everything inside the car can just be controlled by the touch of a button. Recently, I just saw the review of Tesla coming to India, and the person who reviewed it was shocked. Was shocked. He didn't even have a dashboard in front of the steering. Everything was integrated into that single screen which Tesla has. You cannot even see the speedometer in front of your steering. Everything. There is not even a single button present on the entire dashboard instead of just two rollers on your steering. Everything is controlled by those two buttons, and you can voice control your vehicle. You can command your vehicle to do things. Now innovation has grown in such a manner that you can order your vehicle to come at your doorstep from your parking. You can ask your vehicle to park itself. There are these features called Park Assist, Find My Way. Many other features are coming, and we used to hear these stories 2-3 years back, or 3-5-6 years back, that flying cars will come into existence. Just imagine this, looking out of your window into the sky and vehicles are flying. But this is one thing that I was thinking about. How will you have traffic signals in the air? How will you know? How will you ask the? How will you decide the paths of the vehicle? If everybody goes everywhere, there will be chaos, and you will have vehicles falling from the sky. As it is rightfully said, right? It is raining cats and dogs. We can say that it is raining vehicles. If this happens, it is just not happening because there is no infrastructure for it. Absolutely, you can make flying cars. It is not a big deal because there are already available planes available, right? You just have to integrate it in some proper manner. You just have to have some kind of innovation in it, and it will be possible. It is just not happening because it is not the right. It might not be the right time. It and countries might not have the infrastructure for it at the moment. That is the only reason I think it is not happening. Similarly, when automobile industry was evolving, people thought, how can we travel even faster than an automobile from distance A to distance B? That is when the Wright brothers made manufactured the first aeroplane. They thought that if you could fly in the air and reach from place A to place B, you might go even faster. They might have failed 100 times before coming up with the final model. Now you see that from one side of the world to the other side of the planet, you can just go within a moment, within a matter of few hours. Just imagine going from that same distance in an automobile. How much time would it take for you to go? And that is how waterways also evolved. Ships also started evolving. First, initially, you had those rowan boats, and then people thought, if we could just replace this, if we could replicate the same thing that we are doing on the roads into the water, we can travel faster. We can travel cross continents. We can travel across this ocean and reach the other continent, even reach other places. And that is how conquerors came to other. That is how rulers. That is how people start colonizing countries started being colonized. That is how the British came to us through ports. So yeah, we can blame automobile industry also for our, what can you say, for us being enslaved for more than 300 years under the British Raj. So that is how it happened. That is how things happened. So when automobiles started having gas powered engines and steam powered engines and petrol and diesel powered engines, other markets also started evolving. Ships started becoming steam powered. Ships started becoming fuel powered. Before that, you had to build up steam in the vehicle. You had to put coal and build up the pressure, and then the vehicle started, and then the boat or the train started moving forward. But then now you just have to refuel it, and it just moves. This is how industry started evolving. And then when people made the engine, they thought, what more can we do it? What more can we do with it? And there are 100 more applications, that 100 more innovations that came in, and they also became industries of their own. One more innovation that came into the automotive industry was the air conditioning system. So when an engine was placed, it was placed in the bottom of the vehicle, and in vehicles used to be rear wheel driven vehicles. So you had to transfer the power from the front of the vehicle to the back of the vehicle. So there were power losses happening. And above the engine, there was a lot of space available to put other stuff also. There were a lot of empty gaps, and the engine sizes were huge. So people thought, if we could just reduce the size and reduce the power loss happening, we might have better efficiency of the vehicle, or the vehicle might perform better. So what they did was they powered the front vehicles. So instead of you transferring the vehicle right from the engine to the rear wheels with a lot of power losses in between, if you could just transfer the power of the engine then and there to the vehicles in the front, it was better. And that is when they saw that vehicles are being more fuel efficient. Earlier, if you were driven the vehicles, considering considering the prices in the day, every kilometer would have costed you about 100 rupees. Now in 100 rupees petrol, we go to a petrol pump and say, "Bhaiya, 100 rupees ka petrol dalna." Because we know that we can travel from whatever distance we want in the 100 rupees. I know petrol rates are going up, but yeah, let's take that as an example. 112, 113 rupees. Let's not discuss that also. So yeah, this is how vehicles started becoming more efficient, engines started becoming more lighter, and the power losses started to become more less. And when engines started becoming lighter, their size also kept getting smaller and smaller. If you see the current engine of an Activa or of a bike, it is just you can call it, you can fit it in your bag, in your laptop. That entire engine can be fitted in your laptop bag. It is that small. But if you would have seen the way, if you would have seen the prehistoric engine which were there in the olden days vehicle, it was the size of a two-wheeler. That is how the industry has evolved. When the engine started becoming smaller, there was even more space left in the engine bay. What was to be done of that space? It was just, it was just being wasted. You could install so many other machines to power so many other systems and make your driving experience even more comfortable. That is how they installed air conditioning system came into existence. So when you were driving for longer distances in those hot winds, and the wind coming inside to the vehicle from the engine of the vehicle and from the surroundings was even hotter. So the person sitting inside was literally being grilled inside his own vehicle. So they thought of bringing, air conditioning into inside the vehicle. For that, you had to insulate the vehicle and make sure that you were making a secure cabin, so that you could maintain an optimal temperature inside of the cabin. There was a temperature being maintained. There was no temperature losses. Vehicle was Air was not escaping from anywhere. So you had to make a sealed cabin, and you had to make sure that the that is being generated from the engine is not being dissipated inside the engine. The vehicle is not being heated because of the heat of the engine. So for that, cooling systems came into existence, radiators came into existence, and air cooling systems came, fluid cooling systems came into existence for automobiles. And let's talk about the seatbelt point that I was mentioning a few moments back. Before, so the company that developed the three-point seatbelt was Volvo, and they have not patented it till date. If they do that, no other brand vehicle can have the three-point seatbelt. And when vehicle crashes used to happen, there was a very huge chance of loss of life. So the regulations, so to maintain this and to reduce this, regulations had to be made, laws have to be made so that people follow them. And yeah, so that is when airbags came into existence. So now it is mandatory. Now even in the Indian market, it is mandatory for you to have at least two airbags in every vehicle. You have to have that, otherwise you are not even allowed to manufacture that vehicle. That is when regulations came into place, people started thinking of how you can make a how you can make your driving experience more safer, how you can be more safe on a road. So basically, you are sitting inside a cabin, and if anything happens, you do not have an escape route. Whatever happens to you happens inside the vehicle. Just imagine this: you are entrapped in a vehicle and the vehicle goes on fire. What would you do? How would you escape the vehicle? So people started thinking, how can we reduce this? They start thinking of innovation. That is when Volvo came up with a three-point seat belt. So when you are having an impact, when you are in a crash, when you are in an accident, or when you are in a collision, the three-point seat belt restricts your movement. You do not just go inside the vehicle with the momentum does not take you at a far further distance from your seat, from the place you are sitting. You are restricted to where you are sitting. You are actually, the vehicle hugs you and does not let you go, and the airbag protects you other of the parts coming and hitting you, and you hitting the steering wheel. So this is how it came. So this is how passenger vehicles started evolving. Similarly, other commercial vehicles started evolving. So people did not really care about the commercial vehicles because they wanted goods to be transferred, but they did not really care when it was transferred, because initially the time taken for goods to travel to be transferred from one place to another was huge. If it was reduced, people didn't mind it coming at a later time. When passenger vehicles started evolving, people started evolving the commercial vehicles also. And drivers who were driving these commercial vehicles had more benefits if were getting more benefits if they were transporting these goods in a faster time. So they started driving at rash high speeds, and they started driving rashly. to get more incentives or to get more rewards. This resulted in more accidents happening of these carrier vehicles, of these commercial vehicles. So then regulations had to even to be made for these vehicles, so that this vehicle does not, so that the commercial vehicle does not go over a certain speed, over a certain, and the driver has to take so many stops before he reaches the time. So evolution also came for those vehicles. Now even the newer vehicles, carrier vehicles which are coming, have seat belts, and it is mandatory for them to wear a seat belt. But it will surely take some time for our Indian drivers to evolve. Even with seat belts happening, they just, yeah, one more innovative system that has come up. If you don't put a seat belt, the vehicle keeps reminding you with a beep, and it is a very annoying beep. This even comes in carrier vehicles. But what they everybody see, when there is a rule being made, people try to break the rule. So they think of hacks of how you can break this rule. So what they do is they plug the seatbelt behind them. They don't wear the seatbelt. So when in a collision, the first thing that has happened is loss of life. So it is really advisable, so that when you're driving a vehicle or when you're riding a vehicle, it is really important that you wear a seatbelt, because it is there for your safety. The manufacturer is not getting any reward out of it, and nobody is going to get any reward out of it. It is just made because the person who is driving the vehicle is safe inside the vehicle. There is not a lot of damage. Whatever damage happens to the vehicle can be repaired, but if you have a damage to your body, it cannot be repaired. And once the original part, let's talk in technical terms here, I do not know the mechanical terms. If an original part is replaced, you cannot get back the efficiency of the same thing. Our finger has three folds. If you even lose one of the folds, look at you lose a lot of mobility in your hand. Just imagine this: if you cannot rotate your wrist, how much mobility will you lose? How will you play games? How will you do work if this wrist is restricted? So everything is there because of the safety of the person who is driving it. So road safety is a very important thing that everybody of us should consider. And recently I was listening to this article. So this person was arguing, I have 15 years of experience in driving, yeah, nothing can happen. But the important thing is that what matters at that point of time, when you are going to experience a crash, or when a crash is going to happen, what matters is your reflexes. How fast you can, how fast you respond to what is going to happen, how fast your mind processes things. So yeah, safety precautions are there for the safety of the person who is driving the vehicle. Similarly, helmets. So yeah, when two wheelers came into existence, there was no safety of the rider riding the vehicle, because the two wheelers didn't go at a huge speed. Even if you fell from the vehicle, there was not a lot of damage happening to you. So when four wheelers were being evolved, engines being getting smaller, two wheeler engines also started getting smaller, and alternatives to these parts also started coming. People started innovating those fiber parts. Plastic के bodies बनना शुरू हो गए. So you just had that chassis, metal chassis, and everything over it was fiber. Vehicles started getting even lighter. So the previous engine eventually gave you more speed. When there was more speed, and when there were crashes, there was a lot of difficulty, and there was a lot of loss of life. So evolution had to happen for this also. That is when helmets came into existence. Not only helmets, when people thought of seat belts for cars, there was also innovation for seat belts for bikes. But then if you restrict yourself on a two-wheeler, the results showed them, their experiments showed them that there was even a lot damage happening if you are restricted. uh, there is a comment that I am not audible. Am I?
You are perfectly audible, Mr. Maz.
Cool. I think so. You need to check with that, please. Someone said I was not audible. Yes, I'm sorry. Let's continue. So yeah, evolution happened in that manner also, but it was of larger harm to the person who is riding the vehicle than it was protecting him. You are restricted to the vehicle, so you are falling with the vehicle. When you fall from a two-wheeler, the two-wheeler goes in one direction and you go in one direction. So there is a lot less damage happening to you if you are detached from the vehicle. That is when people start thinking of ways to protect yourself. So you actually have this innovation called a two-wheeler airbag. So you have a bag or a jacket that you wear. As soon as you fall from the vehicle, it inflates automatically, just as a car airbag. So you are engulfed in the entire airbag and you are protected. So these are the things that are there available in the market. These are the innovations that are happening. related to safety for the vehicle inside an automobile. So this is what happened till date. This is what is happening now till recent times. What is happening in vehicles now is people are evolving vehicles in such a way that the driver just has to concentrate on his driving, and the other tangibles that are available are taken care of the vehicle. So you have internet assistance for that. uh, I am sorry, Manaj, you I think so if you rejoin, that problem will not be there. If you can check your internet again, because I think I am audible for others. Am I?
Yep, you're perfectly audible, MaaZ.
Good. Yeah, if
It's
you rejoin,
clear.
Manaj.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Thank you so much. Am I boring you guys or what? Or is it interesting, or do you want me to discuss something else related?
It's damn interesting for me at least. Learning all those stuff again and hearing it again, and in fact, all the new things and the innovation that actually led to the modern vehicles now. It's interesting. Please do
Thank you.
continue.
Thank you so much, Usaid. Thank you. So yeah, so that is how people started evolving things around the vehicles for the safety of the passenger. This is what is happening for the two wheelers. Then came the so yeah, people just thought of front on collisions, how to keep the passenger or the driver safe when you collide front on head on collisions. But what if you are colliding with a side on collision? What if somebody comes and bang you from behind? What if somebody just rams in you from behind, I'm sorry, and from the side of your vehicle? How are you protected in that? Because in the side of the vehicle there is just glass. So that is when innovation came up with those curtain, you actually call it curtain airbags, which are present in your panels above your head, and they just drop in as curtains and protect you. This is how this is how innovation started happening around vehicles related to passenger safety and driver safety. But this was only restricted to adults. But adults were not the only people who were traveling in vehicles. There were children also traveling the vehicles. That is when child lock systems came into place, because children are very curious beings. You give something to a child, he will play for it like hell for like 5 to 10 minutes, and then he will not even bother about it. So when a child sat in the vehicle, he was really curious. There were a lot of buttons in front of him. There were a lot of levers to pull in front of him. So it was like a playground for the child. So he or she started pulling things, doing a lot of ruckus and nuisance in the vehicle, which resulted in danger for the child. And children are really tender and soft. They are still in their evolving days. So damage happening to children was far more than what damage was happening to adults. For child safety, even more safety precautions had to be taken. So that is when child lock system came for the doors. So now in every vehicle you have this option of locking your door for children, so that the inside levers become void. You cannot operate the doors from the inside levers. You cannot operate the windows. You have a window lock system, so that you cannot operate those windows. You cannot roll down those windows up and down. You cannot play with those windows. And now you have children safety belts, different locks for children safety belts, so that a child is safe. You have child seats for the vehicle, because the vehicles that the seats which are made are for adults. You have child seats, child lock systems, so that everybody is safe in a vehicle. But then people started yeah, till then the vehicles which have been developed were just meant for four seaters, for four people sitting in a vehicle comfortably, or for five people sitting in a vehicle comfortably. But then families started growing. People wanted to travel with their friends, and you don't have 4 or 5 friends, you have more than 4 or 5 friends. So that is when automobile manufacturers started thinking, how can you accommodate all these people inside a vehicle? how can you give the how can you give them the experience of being together and traveling at a distance? How can they have the warmth, and how can they enjoy the distance? So that is when people started coming up manufacturers started coming up with the 7-seater options, with those 8-seater options. If you see in the Western world, uh, you have a vehicle you have vehicles which can seat up to 15 people or 14 people. Like we have the example that I can give you here in India is the Kia Carnival. You have variants in which you can even seat 12 to 15 people at a time inside the vehicle. And the same vehicles give you the option of sitting just 6 people also. So this is how the companies have started coming up with. So when vehicles started getting bigger, companies started thinking you can make them more luxurious, or you can make them available for more people to sit in them. So they start coming up with variants for that needs also. So when you buy a Kia Carnival, it comes at a price of about 30 lakh rupees, but you have the option of seating. You have the seating option of either 6 people or 12 people. It depends on you. So you prefer comfort or luxury over number of people that are sitting in the car. So when one manufacturer started making those vehicles, he started selling, and the other manufacturers also saw this happening. So they came up with their own versions. But then people didn't. So when these big vehicles didn't have enough fuel efficiency, because they were bigger and more people were sitting in them, the fuel efficiency came down to a huge level. So people were really concerned about this. They wanted the vehicle to be more fuel efficient, as well as seat the number of people that were sitting in a huge vehicle. So then manufacturers had to come up with innovative methods. You remember I said initially the vehicles were powered by electric power and steam power. That is when manufacturers again started thinking on the electric part. Till then, the electric part was really not cared about. People didn't really give a damn about electricity, and they thought that how will you charge a vehicle? There were a lot of problems happening because electricity was not common back then. You still had those, lanterns and lamps which were being run in houses and streets. Fire was being used as a source of light till then. But then but after, in the later days, electricity is very common. You have access to electricity literally everywhere and anywhere. So people start thinking on the electricity part. If it could have been done in the 1700s, we are in the 2000s now. It was done in the 18th century. It was done in the 16th century. We are in the 21st century. 4 centuries later, people start thinking about the electricity part again. People start thinking, if we could drive a vehicle on electric train, how great it would be. You would not even spend a penny on fuel, and still have the pleasure of driving the vehicle. And just imagine this: you are sitting in a vehicle. You are sitting in an old vehicle, and you do not have the AC on. You have rolled down the windows. Just imagine sitting in this vehicle, and how just feel this. How many I can actually feel sitting in this chair right now. The amount of vibrations and the noise coming just from the engine and the surroundings. What a ruckus it is. The amount of noise and the pollution and the vibrations an engine makes. And just imagine this: the same specifications you get with an electric motor. So the electric motor doesn't have a single sound. It does not vibrate as a as an internal combustion vibrates. And you can use dampenings for electric engines, which are far more effective than if you do for an internal combustion engine. You are driving the same vehicle with electric power, but you do not have the ruckus of those vibrations and those noise. You have a pleasant, peaceful drive. But there was a fix to it. How do you charge the vehicle? How do you power the vehicle? If the vehicle is run on motors, if the vehicle is run on an internal combustion engine, it is being powered by fuel. If the vehicle is being run on electric motor, how do you power it? So that is when they thought of adding connecting it with the electricity wires, but then it was restricted. कितना लंबा वायर लगा लेते हैं आप गाड़ी को? You cannot just keep a wire running down every cable and running the vehicle. So they thought of in capturing this electricity into a box and putting it in the vehicle. But then the vehicle was restricted. It could only go so many kilometers. It could only travel. I'm sorry. It could only travel for such a long time before it runs out of charge. So what do you do for that? So this is the point. This is actually where the automotive industry is at the moment. Tesla has figured it out, and how they are doing it is really great. So what Tesla does is they have an entire bed of batteries. They have an entire bed of electricity right inside the vehicle, and the vehicle get discharged accordingly. The vehicle is being run, and they have two motors in the vehicle. So even if one motor does not work or shuts down, the other motor is there. You do not lose powertrain. You do not lose whatever you're doing with the vehicle, you do not the vehicle does not come to a stop, to a standstill. This is how people started innovating. This is how the automotive started industry started shifting to slowly, coming into electric vehicles. But then people didn't accept it back then. Back when this technology was introduced, people didn't want to buy it because they had this thing called range anxiety. Because when you if you forget to charge your vehicle at night, they didn't know what to do, because there were not no enough charging stations. People were not. And if you went to some other person's place, or if you went to a restaurant, or if you went to a hotel, people were not really, friendly enough to give you a port to charge, because they thought that अगर आप गाड़ी चार्ज कर लिए तो हमारी लाइट की बिल बढ़ जाएगी. Why should I increase my light bill for you to charge your vehicle? So that is what people were really unfriendly and unwelcoming for these electric vehicles. So electric vehicles initially failed, but then it was a very effective method to cut down the fuel price and to increase the efficiency of the vehicle. So that is when hybrid vehicles came into existence. But the hybrid vehicle concept was going on from about 100 decades till date. So in 1986, motor wagon was the name of the vehicle, which was hybrid. So what this person, it was a Mercedes Benz vehicle. So what Mercedes did it with it was, they had this vehicle running on fuel, but when the fuel was exhausted, it was running on electric power. So how did they harness this power? When the vehicle was running on fuel, the wheels were rotating. So they stored this energy somewhere and they powered the electric motor. So the vehicle was running on electricity, but this had a lot of power losses. The motor was, failing a lot of times. The technology was not yet so advanced for this innovation to work back then, but it could have worked in the later stages. So that is when the electric vehicle concept failed completely. Hybrid concept came into picture, and people didn't really bother if both of them were given, because of the advancement of technology, because of the advancement of sensors. So you didn't have to do it manually by yourself. Sensors were there in the vehicle to detect when to engage electric powertrain, and when to cut down on the fuel, how to efficiently manage both of these things, how the vehicle moves on both powertrains at a single point of time. So yeah, fuel efficiency also grew. You could seat a lot of more people, and people were happy. But there was again, yeah, so this is how things happened. And let's consider, now till the date, vehicles were being driven for a very long period of time. Vehicles were being driven by people who were considered mature enough. But then when regulations were made, regulations were not made to restrict the age of people driving the vehicles. So younger generations started driving vehicles, teenagers started driving vehicles, kids started driving vehicles. That is when a lot of problems started happening. When kids started driving vehicles, they had these competitions, they had these complexes happening. Are मैं मेरे से तेज चला रहा, मैं उससे तेज चला रहा. So races started happening, street races started happening. That is when somebody got an idea to make this a sport. So that is when sport racing came into picture. Automobiles started coming into the racing industry also. Formula 1 started happening, MotoGP started happening, and a lot of events around the world started. Every country came up with their own versions of these sporting events. But there had to be a control on who was driving the vehicle and how the vehicle was being driven. So that is when regulations came to restrict the age of people below a certain number to drive vehicles. So you cannot, in India, according to the law, you cannot drive a vehicle unless you are above 18 years old. But I don't think so. People still adhere to that. Then they changed the law. When this law came, there was a lot of hangama happening around the world. People were like, "We are experienced enough. We have been driving." Kids were like, "We have been driving vehicles from a lot of time. We are more experienced than you. You don't drive a vehicle. How can you restrict us just by the age?" So yeah, that is when other laws came in to counter that thing happening. So this is how evolution, this is how the start of motor racing started happening. Racing started becoming a sport also. Automobile industry started venturing into the sporting segment also. But there was a different, this became a completely different segment. The same vehicle had to go even faster, and if the vehicle went faster, it was heating faster, so there had to be better cooling systems in the vehicle. And the leading manufacturers back then were Mercedes and Volkswagen. So these were the only two competitors in the auto sports industry, and nobody could, try to even match them. That is when the ever legendary sporting vehicle came into the company came into existence, Ferrari. So they came up, they saw the problems that were happening in those existing racing vehicles. So the problem that they saw was these vehicles were not going fast enough. They had to have a better cooling system, and they were heavy because the road vehicles were converted for sporting needs, for sporting activities. What Ferrari did was they eliminated the entire other weight of the vehicle. Like a racing vehicle does not need to have rear seats. A racing vehicle did not need to have those extra rear doors. A racing vehicle did not need to have a boot space. The only purpose of this racing vehicle was to go fast. So that is what they tapped into. That is the innovation that they bought on the table. When they did that, absolutely they started winning races with a huge margin, and people started copying them. They became a benchmark. That is how every manufacturer started entering the sports market. So initially back in the 1960s or 50s, when people wanted to create their own manufacturing brand, what they did was they entered into the sports market first. They showed the public that their vehicle could go fast, their vehicle would not break down easily, and then slowly they ventured into the passenger vehicle segment. That is how Renault, a company which came into existence, was. They entered into the sporting segment first. They showed the world how efficiently and how fast their vehicles could go. Now these vehicles were going faster, but they were not safe. Again, the same problem, because to make the weight light, all the safety measures that were in the vehicle had to be removed. So now regulations again had to be made for the sporting industry. This is how things evolved. There were regulations being made for every to cater to all the needs of automobiles. Now we see the competition grew so much that people started making cars even lighter, even better, even faster. But then you had to restrict the speed also. If the vehicle is going so fast, it can only brake at so much time. You had to even stop the vehicle if you're running the vehicle, right? There is a turn coming in front. There is your opponent in front of you. You have to brake in front of him, or you have to brake in front of a turn. If there is an emergency, you had to do that. So brakes had to be evolved. Before this time, disc brakes were not even a concept. They were just drum brakes, but these drum brakes kept failing because of those high speeds. They used to get red hot, and they used to catch fire. If there was fire happening, it had to be doused off. So that is when track safety came into picture, driver safety came into picture. And when people were driving these vehicles, they were driving it at such high speeds that even a slightest miscalculation they do resulted in their death. We have great drivers in the automotive industry that passed away just because of negligence of safety precautions that they didn't take care of. They think that they should not have done. So that is when things became mandatory for them. Now, if you want to be a racing driver, you have to clear levels first. If you want to become a Formula One driver, you have to clear Formula Four, Formula Three, Formula Two, and then you get a seat for Formula One, and then you drive for a Formula One vehicle, Formula One car. Similar is with bike racing also, MotoGP. Yeah, that is how automobiles shifted into the sporting segment also. When cars and bikes shifted to the sporting segment, the people who were driving those planes and ships came into complex. अरे उन्हों चला रहे हैं, उन्हों racing करना, हम क्यों नहीं करना? Why shouldn't we do it if they are doing it? That is when boat racing came into picture, yacht racing came into picture, airlines. There are a lot of shows happening in air, stunts happening by planes. So when bikes came into picture, there were a lot of stunts because bikes were lighter. You could easily flick the bike however you wanted, and as the bike was lighter, you could give it more air time and rotate the bike and do a lot of stunts on bikes. So that is what the thing that they saw, automobile pilots saw. But the plane was so huge, it could not take turns. So you had to make a lighter plane for that. That is how airplane racing is also a thing now. Water racing is also a thing now. When water racing came into existence, as we already see, right, ships are open. And when boats go fast, ships go fast, a lot of water comes inside. So it had to be encapsulated. When it was encapsulated, the boat was sinking. So you had to reduce the weight. That is how boat racing came into picture. That is how boat racing evolved as a sport. Actually, if you want to witness boat racing in India, you can actually go to Vishakhapatnam. There, I think so. Every August or September of every year or October of every year, there boat racing happen over there. Every country, because of the port at because the Indian Ocean, Bay of Bengal that meets over there at Vishakhapatnam, and it is a very calm kind of sea over there. It remains very calm during those days. Countries from around, sportsmen from around the world come with their boats and they do racing over there. So yeah, if you want to catch that, you can get a glimpse of. We also, I'm sorry for that. We also had, what do you say, Formula One racing in India at Delhi. We have a very huge, very beautiful, and a very huge circuit by the name BIC, Buddha International Circuit. But due to a lot of complications and government problems, F1 is not happening in India right now. But you would have witnessed that till 2016 or 15, I guess. India even had their team by the name Sahara F1 or Force India in Formula One. This is how things. This is how automobiles evolved in the sporting industry. But when hybrid vehicles, let's come back from the sporting industry. I was talking about the hybrid vehicles. When hybrid vehicles were a huge success, people wanted to know if we could do something again about these electric vehicles. But one thing had to be made sure of. You had to have the proper infrastructure before you could actually introduce the vehicle. So that is when charging stations came into place. That is when people thought of making those charging stations available before getting the vehicle out there. So in the Western countries, there were charging stations put up. There were advertisements done. People started promoting these electric vehicles because you were saving a lot on fuel, and people had already seen it because of the hybrid vehicles thing. That is when electric vehicles started coming into the picture. Electric vehicles started evolving. Now we know that every automotive industry or every automotive manufacturer there wants to have their variant of electric vehicles there. Electric want to have the version of their electric vehicles out there in the market. If we look into the if we let's that this is happening till date, or this is how the automotive industry evolved till now. What Considering the news and data that we have, what is going to happen in the automotive industry is completely, you can actually imagine. It is actually what we had actually imagined of. So we see of those self-driven cars, those cars which are driven on voice commands, these cars which are driverless. Just imagine this: you call an Uber and the car comes without a driver. So this is self-driving vehicles, the vehicles driving without the fuel trains. This is what's going to happen. So before the automotive industry evolving into this segment, the infrastructure has to be developed in some or the other manner for the vehicles, for the automotive industry to move into this. So this is what I think is going to happen in the automotive segment. So yeah, that concludes of what my points were. If you have any doubts related to that, or any queries related to the automotive industry, I am free to answer some of your questions. Thank you so much again, Shalan College of Engineering and Technology, for having me give this session webinar on the innovation in the automotive industry. I hope that I have covered most of the points. And if you want to know something or related to automotive industry or automobiles, I will surely try and answer those questions now. Anybody? Nobody? I am not. I won't harm you in any in any way. If you ask me a question, it is completely not offensive. Also, or if you think any of those facts that I mentioned were false or not true, you can even let me know about that. Once
Would
again,
you would you like to see flying cars in the future?
oh, you are asking of my personal opinion on that.
Yep, your personal opinion. Being the CEO of a electric vehicle company, I mean, do you want to see flying cars?
I would love to see flying cars, but then the problem is how would you manage them in the sky? You don't know. For vehicles on road, you have traffic signals, you have roadways, you have pathways made, but the sky is the limit, and it is open to everybody. So how would you manage the vehicles in the sky? Just imagine all the vehicles right now which have been run on air, run on the land, are being transported to the sky. Just imagine the ruckus happening over there. I think that rains will stop and cars and bikes will start falling from the sky.
Yeah, that could be. Yeah. So another major concern that many have with the basically electric vehicle is what will happen during floodings, like especially in India. You
Yeah,
see when there's more than normal kind of a rain, our vehicles are already half dipped.
absolutely.
So how is it going to impact the electric vehicles?
No, it's a great question actually, you said, and thank you for raising this. I missed this point when I was speaking. I actually thought of speaking about this. So yeah, the major problem with electric vehicles is that it is run on electricity, and electricity and water are inversely proportional. You cannot have both of them together; they repel each other. So what do you do when there are heavy rains? What do you do when there is floodings? As we recently saw, right, in Hyderabad, there were a lot of water. There were a lot of rains, and this in turn had many of the internal combustion engines car also failed, broke down. What do you do if you're an electric vehicle? So will the electric vehicle be short circuited? Will it catch fire? For that, motors are waterproof and batteries are encapsulated in a waterproof case. And when the vehicle gets submerged in underwater, these power supplies cut off. So the vehicle protects itself from being degraded. You just have to make sure that you do not turn on the vehicle in water. Just let the water pass by. You come out of the water, restart your vehicle, and you'll be fine. In many of the vehicles, but yeah, you should not start a vehicle when you are in water, an electric vehicle especially.
Also, with respect to charging stations,
Yeah,
do you feel like the market is heading towards an innovation where the charging time is being reduced,
absolutely.
say like from 4 hours to maybe 2 hours or 1 hour or even half an hour maybe, because at the end of the day time is important. And with respect to vehicles, I think it takes what 5 minutes to get a tank full, not even five, 2 to 3 minutes. So compared to that, it's a big disadvantage. So how is
this
it
the,
happening?
this is where the automotive industry is moving into. So right now, what place are we at? Everybody thinks that अरे 5 मिनट में tank fuel हो जा रहा. Why should I wait for 4 hours to get my vehicle recharged completely? What happens is that when do you need charging the most is that when you are going for longer distances. Just imagine this, let's consider ourselves just driving in the city. Absolutely, the charging infrastructure has to evolve. The charging infrastructure has to better, especially in India. You need to have charging stations at such a capacity as we have those petrol pumps. You will find, I'm sorry, you will find petrol pump every 1 or 2 kilometers, or at least in every 5 kilometers, you will have at least 2 or 3 petrol pumps. If I'm not wrong, I'm not quoting anybody here, and I'm not talking data. I'm just talking what I have seen. If you're going from point A to point B and you have covered 5 kilometers, you will find more than 2 to 3 petrol pumps. So if charging infrastructure develops at such a huge pace, at such a number, absolutely people will start buying electric vehicles. And yes, the minimum charging time required to charge a vehicle, as Usaid rightfully said, is 4 hours. Why would you want to waste 4 hours to charge your vehicle? So yeah, fast charging is something that is coming into picture. As you charge your phones, right? The 10 minutes 80%, 10 minutes 50%, 10 minutes 90%, 10 minutes 60%. So things like these are evolving. So you charge your vehicle for 10 minutes, you get a respectable range to reach to wherever you want to reach, and then you can charge your vehicle over there. For example, you're going from your home to your college, or you're going from your home to your office. You need to travel 15 kilometers distance, but you have forgotten to charge at night. So you get in the morning, you plug in your charger, your vehicle gives you a charge, you charge for like 10-15 minutes till you get ready. Or you have forgotten it completely. You charge your vehicle then and there for 10 minutes. It gives you a respectable range so that you reach to your destination. You can charge it over there. For that, the place that you're going to reach needs to have the charging station available. Needs to have that infrastructure for you to be able to charge over there. Recently, there was an article being circulated in news A person in Bangalore had bought an electric scooter, but his building management did not let him charge. So he took it to his flat and charged the vehicle. So yeah, people need to be more welcoming to allow you to set up a charging network, charging station. Many of the malls in India right now do have charging stations. Many of the corporate offices and big offices are coming up with charging stations in their parking lots. So yeah, things are evolving, but not at a pace that it should be evolving. But they'll get there. Charging station needs to evolve at a quicker pace, because new electric vehicles are coming every day, be it two wheelers or four wheelers.
Also, what interests me is, if we can come up with a way to charge vehicles on the go.
Yeah,
So,
that
what are your views on that? Can we have inductive coiling on the floor, or maybe some cable hanging on top of the car, or something like that? Because
yeah.
if we are able to do something in that direction, I feel the whole problem or the whole challenge of charging your vehicles will be eliminated the moment we come up with automatic on the road charging. So, what do you think about that?
Actually, Germany has come up with this innovation where they have installed some kind of technology inside the road. So when you drive on that part of the road, your vehicle charges. I don't know how they are charging that. They say that they have used the wireless technology that we have in phones nowadays. That you do not need to plug in your phone to charge your phone. You just need to place it above a charging pad and it charges it. So when you go on that part of the road or that position of the road, the vehicle charges itself. The battery gets charged through some kind of technology. I have not looked into that, but yeah, the one thing that we can do is we can regenerate the when the wheel is rotating. When you are going on the go, the wheel rotates. You can harness energy from that rotation, store it somewhere, and when your main battery gets discharged, this stored energy can be used to run your vehicle, and the regeneration will charge your battery again. So you need to have two batteries, is what I feel, or a harness station inside your vehicle where you can store energy, and when the initial battery gets discharged, this stored energy can be used to run your vehicle. If this happens, if somebody comes up with this innovation, it will be blooming for the automotive industry segment. Regenerate the go.
Mars, I had a question regarding you being a electrical automotive CEO. My question was, what is the future of electric automotives in India? Because there are automotive cars coming from electric cars coming from Tata as well as from MG. So, what is the scope of in India?
One thing that we need to consider over here is that when you are buying an electric vehicle, you are paying a cost of an internal combustion. You will not get an electric vehicle at the cost of a fuel powered vehicle. This is something that people need to think about. You are paying, for example, you have to pay at an expense of petrol. If you buy the you get it at a 8 lakh, but same vehicle in electric segment, you get it at 15-16 lakhs. So you are paying upfront a huge amount, and people have this anxiety. I have done this calculation related to how much I have traveled in this, how much I travel in a city. So on a busy day, about 80 to 90 kilometers in a day. That is the max you can travel in the city in a day. I feel if vehicles are giving you that much minimum charge, people just that gadi hai, it is coming at a premium cost. We have to pay some price upfront. Proper, there is no proper infrastructure for charging station. That is the rate. That is the anxiety that people have. To the people I have spoke, this is the thing that they have said to me, and I have spoke to a lot of people. I feel the only thing that they say is that charging stations are not available. What about the electricity bills? The government is not giving us enough subsidy. Considering other governments in other countries, they give a lot of subsidy for electric vehicles. You literally drive your vehicle for free in other countries. Our government also has those facilities, but they have not promoted in such a way that the public is open to experience, open to explore it. So if the Telangana government actually has a scheme where if you buy an electric vehicle and if you install solar power panels at your home, you start generating electricity to those solar panels. So whatever your light bill cost is, for example, you have generated electricity of about 5,000 rupees in an entire month, but your electricity bill and your with your charging electric vehicle, all that has costed you 4,000 rupees. The government will pay you 1,000 for the generation of those 1,000 rupees ki extra electricity. But people are skeptical about this because you have to pay a premium price. You have to pay a premium price of so many rupees extra than a fuel powered vehicle, but you end up spending more on a fuel powered vehicle. So yeah, that is something. If electric vehicles get a bit competitive in their pricing and the charging infrastructure grows, definitely Indian market will switch to electric vehicles in the next 4 to 5 years. You will see a lot of electric vehicles on the road in the next 4 to 5 years. Already you are seeing a lot of two wheelers, I feel. Four wheelers will also be there, but it will just take some time. I hope I have answered your question, sir.
Yes, you have, but I have another question. What is the goal of automotive engineering in electric vehicles? Because what we have seen is the whole world that is running today is running on combustion engines like petrol and diesel.
Yeah.
And about electrical, we need a lot of energy to be generated, and some places that we live in do not have generation of energy or electricity at that level. So
Yeah.
how can we deal with that problem?
Great questions again. So yeah, you need to know firstly, if you want to do something with electric vehicles, if you want to become an electric vehicle engineer, you need to have the knowledge of mechanical engineers as well as electrical engineers, because it is a mixture of both of them. You need to know firstly how the vehicle works, how internal combustion vehicle works, and you need to know the electric part of it. You need to know how to attach those batteries, how to run those wires, how to do all those stuff. For that, uh, actually universities are coming up with these engineering courses where you can opt for electrical engineering course, electric vehicle engineering. There are courses by universities happening around India and around the world where you have a 6 months to 8 months course where you can take this and they teach you. But for that you need to have basic knowledge of how the vehicle works, what are the basic electric requirements and all those stuff. And the thing you said that it requires a huge amount of energy, right? I drive an electric scooter, and the monthly bill, that the extra premium that I pay in my monthly bill is just 350 rupees. I have both powertrain scooters. I have a fuel powered scooter and electric powered scooter which I have made. So yeah, when I drive the fuel powered scooter for an entire month, it costs me about 3,200 rupees on fuel expenses. And the same distance when I cover for an electric scooter, it costs me just 350 rupees. It's just that when you buy the electric vehicle or if you get your electric vehicle converted, you are paying a cost upfront. So yeah, is the answer what you were looking for, sir? Any more questions, anybody?
You being a CEO of an electrical automotive company and I being a mechanical student, what is the scope of a mechanical engineer in electric motive engineering? So,
What is the scope of a mechanical engineer in the electric
yeah,
range?
automotive company.
So firstly, you can be of assistance in the designing part. You can be of assistance in the designing part of the vehicle. You can be in the assistance of the analysis part of the vehicle. Mechanical engineers are. I am a mechanical engineer, and when I did my mechanical engineering, what was it was I learned designing. I learned analysis. I learned how to design parts. So electric vehicles need to have very precise parts because you cannot have those panel gaps and those sorry, excuse me, you cannot have those gaps that you have in you cannot have those irregularities you can have an internal combustion engine. You have to precision work, you need to have those precision cuts made, you need to have those perfect designs. So that is one place where you can apply being a mechanical engineer, in the design segment, in the analysis of the parts. So when someone has designed a part, you need to analyze it. How much force it can withstand, what is the heat at which it will start to melt, how much heat force can it withstand. So designing part is somewhere you can be of assistance. And if you do some courses related to electrical engineering, you can become a very great team player in the company, in an in an electric vehicle company. And you can also be there for the manufacturing, for the assembling part also. If you're interested in that segment, you can also apply for the manufacturing and assembly line process also. So you just need to learn about how the machine works and command the machine, and it will do assembly for you, and you can supervise the machine doing it. So these are the two things being a mechanical engineer you can apply for in an electric manufacturing, a vehicle manufacturing company.
You have mentioned of taking courses like what should be taken by a mechanical engineer to attain that position in the company.
If you want to learn about designing, you can take designing courses. Like you can take courses from Dassault Systems in Ansys Workbench or SolidWorks. They give you certified courses. But just make sure that you are whatever course you are doing is related to mechanical engineering and diverts you in the way of electrical engineering. There is a society called Imperial Society for Innovative Engineers. They have this course called Electrical Vehicle Engineering. It is a full-fledged course of about 6 months. There is FMEA, another organization. You can find them on Instagram, and they give you a complete electric vehicle designing, programming, manufacturing, assembly course. It is about a 6 months or a 1 year course, I guess. It is based in Pune. You go there, be with them. They teach you every insight about it. It is obviously a paid course. And yeah, these are the courses that you need to look for. Electric designing or electricals, you need to know about the electrical systems. You can do courses in that too, but just make sure that it helps you in some or the other way. You cannot just go on Coursera or other those platforms and just do a course which is saying. Just make sure that whatever skills that you're acquiring from these courses are helpful for you. Getting a course is not a big deal. Doing a course is not a big deal. You have hundreds of courses. There are free courses, paid courses. You just need it is at the click of a button. Find the right course in what direction you want to pursue your career. You want to pursue your career in the designing segment, or manufacturing segment, or assembling segment, or whatever you feel like. Just find the right course and get it done. In the
Thank you, Mans. That was all my questions regarding the electric automotive engineering and the company that you run.
Thank you so much. I have one more question in the chat box. In the long run, Yusuf asks, does it make financial sense to purchase an electric vehicle instead of fuel gas powered vehicles? Absolutely, it makes a lot of sense. Let's just consider what I do at my company. I convert your existing two wheelers to an electric vehicle. So what I do is I replace your fuel powered engine and fuel tank with electric motor and batteries. So I just replace it. What you need, you pay me about 50,000 rupees for that, or 55,000, 60,000 rupees for that, and I get it done for you. Now you have paid me that money. Previously what you are doing is you have bought a vehicle for 60,000, 70,000, spending 3,000 every month. So the value, first of all, the value of your vehicle has depreciated, and you are spending 3,500 rupees on that. Every 3 months you get it serviced, 1,500 rupees gone in that. So the cost keeps up adding and adding and adding and adding. After 1 year, you will be shocked calculating the prices, the amount that you have spent on the vehicle. Just calculate it, 3,200 rupees for 12 months. That is the amount of cost money that you have spent just on fuel. Every 3 months servicing, 1,500 rupees, 4 times a year. Just calculate that. Add it to the cost of the vehicle that you have bought, and you will be shocked by the numbers. You have converted your vehicle, it just cost you 350 rupees a month, 400 rupees a month for charging your vehicle for the entire month. 3,200, 400. You have saved 2,800 rupees in this month. By the end of 12, 13 months, you have saved the entire money that you are going to spend on fuel for the amount that you have put in converting your vehicle. So after 12 to 13 months, you will not be spending even a single rupee to run your vehicle. Your vehicle will run itself. आपको एक पैसा नहीं डालना पड़ता आपकी जेब से. Why does it not make sense? It makes absolute sense. Just that people need to be educated about it. If you want to know, if you want to get your vehicle converted, you can just follow me on Torq Electric at Instagram, or you can go to our website and there is a small form. You fill it out and we get back with all the details that we have to get it done for you. The website is torquelectric.com. The spelling is TORQ, not QUE, TORQ electric.com. Thank you. I hope, thank you, Seth, for putting in the link. I think that my time's up, 12:30. I've taken 3 minutes more than I was allotted. I'm sorry for that. And thank you so much for being such a great audience and listening patiently. I hope I have given you a little bit of information and you have learned something new today. Thank you so much, Shalan College of Engineering and Technology, for having me, and Kamal sir for that beautiful intro that you have given. And thank you, Seth, for getting me to do this. That's all from my side. If you have any more questions, feel free to ping me on Instagram. I'll be more than happy to answer all those. That's all from my side.
Thank you, Maaz. Ahmed. Yes, yes. Maaz sir, thank you very much. Thanks a lot for innovative information. And we're all happy to know the uh, many things regarding the innovation in automotive industry. I'm very thankful. And from my college, Southern College of Engineering, from all our faculty directors, uh, on behalf of all of eminent people, and we are very glad to have you. Thanks again, once again. We will have you in coming days. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Yeah, thank you once again. And uh, okay, okay, shall we proceed for the next session?
Yes, sir, sure. The speaker is here.
Yes,
Yes,
please.
sir. Let's go. Let's proceed.
Yeah. So, on behalf of SCET IIC, under Impact lecture scheme is organizing this particular webinar on the second topic is from idea to a product, functional product, sorry, from idea to a functional product by Miss Atika Fatima, founder and CEO, Doctora, product developer, the hacker from the hacker school. Over to Atika Fatima.
Hello everyone. Good morning. Uh, Good afternoon. Am I audible?
Yes, ma'am.
Yes, yes.
So let's get started with a little intro. My name is Atika Fatima, and I'm the CEO and co-founder of Doctora.in. I'm also a product developer at the Hacking School, India's first and the finest coding boot camp, where I also develop products. So today we will be talking about what to do when you get an idea, what to do, and how to build a product when you're ready to move on. So I see that we have a minimal audience here, and that's very good because that makes me less nervous, obviously. So let's get started. Can I have all the yeses in the chat box? Okay. So I'll be sharing a presentation with you in which I'll obviously be explaining how and what to do when you get an idea, and how to proceed when you have an idea. Um, So can somebody define an idea
Yes,
for me?
where you have graduated, ma'am, college?
Hello.
Yep.
Hello.
Yes. Okay. Well, I already introduced myself. Someone from the chat box is already asking for my introduction. So let me reiterate on the fact that I am the founder and CEO of Doctora.in, and I am a product developer at the Hacking School. The Hacking School is basically India's first and the finest coding boot camp. We've recently been acquired by iCollege Australia. So that's that. I develop products at the Hacking School. And what else? So today's seminar is basically on idea to how to convert your idea into a fully functional product. So I'll be sharing a presentation with you all so that you get a better understanding of what I'm actually talking about. um, so just give me a second. I hope you all are able to see the presentation.
Yep. It's visible.
Yes, ma'am.
Yeah, sure. Okay, so first let's talk about ideas. And can somebody, define idea for me? What is an idea?
Any thought in mind to do something?
Exactly. I mean, you look at problems and the zeal in you to solve them and to build products that would, help solve them is called having an idea. So moving on to, once you get an idea, how do you execute it? I mean, there are multiple ways, you can take the part down and experiment all of it, but then when we're talking about the right way to execute an idea and make a functional product, we have to follow a certain steps and understand, so that it saves our time as well as reduces the complexity of building products. So firstly, once you have an idea, what is the first thing that you would do? I want to ask you guys, what is the first thing that you are going to do?
Maybe come up with the ideas like to how to work on it or how to work on the idea. Steps to find.
Uh huh. So what exactly? You guys could even use the comment section if you are not comfortable unmuting yourselves. But I want this to be a super interactive session so that we all benefit the maximum from it. Could you tell me what would you do if you have an idea? If you would want to, build, let's say, a car. So, what is the first thing that you would do? Am I audible?
Yep.
Yes, ma'am.
Uh, are you guys able to understand what I'm trying to tell?
Every day you must inform.
Mm-hmm. Okay. So once you have, so let me just answer for all those confused souls out there. Let me just answer the question myself. When you have an idea, right? you need to now, before moving on and jumping on to building the product that you have thought in your mind, you would actually have to understand the complexities that are required in building the idea, the components that you would be needing to build the idea. So for that, we have a term called wireframing. And what wireframing is basically, and how do you understand that your idea, and before we jump on, even before we jump onto the wireframing part, right, we have a step called idea validation, which I would like to briefly explain, because so basically, when you have an idea, the first thing that you have to do is build nothing. Just try and sell it. Try and pitch your idea to various people to understand the feedback that you're trying to get. Okay. Just set up a random small landing page and see how many it excites. Also, go ahead and build your product only and only if at least 50 people are ready to pay for it, and those 50 should not include your family, friends, relatives, in-laws, because they don't count. They would, because we have two types of extreme people in our lives. Either they would super support you, or they would super negatively pull you down. So your family, friends, relatives, rishtadars, in-laws, uncles and aunties, they don't count. You have to go and start building your product when at least 50 people, 50 unknown people, are ready to pay for it. Okay. This would help you in validating your idea. Next up, when we're building the product, first of all, we should have a crisp image in our mind of what we want to build. And we have to decide upon the bare minimum features that we want our product, that can get our product ready. Okay. The extremely important features of our product that makes it special, that helps us solve the problem that we're actually tackling with, that should be our first priority. And when you start building a product, it is very very essential that you have a roadmap of the product with milestones. Now, what does a roadmap and milestones mean is that you should define your features, what all features you want to have. Okay, you should get a list of all of the features, and then what you have to do is you have to understand key. Okay, feature A is super important, I will need it in my product. You should give them alphabetical names. So what I do when I get an idea is I would list down all the features that I would want in the product, and then I would go to each feature and categorize them according to the alphabetical order. But you can even give them numbers, 1, 2, 3, 4. So what I do is I give them alphabetical orders. So I give the most important one A, then the second important one B, and it goes on. So when I am building a product, I'll focus on the first three features, the key features that I would want in my product, and I would keep that product the same way till I at least gain 100 users for my product. And once I have my 100 users, I would start focusing on the other features, that is from C to M, for the next 500 users. And along with the users, you must notice that the number of features are also increasing. Like for the first 100, we only had three features, A, B and C. But for the next, from 101 to 500, we have features C, D, E, F, G, H, I, J, K, L, M. That is 11 more features added to it, so that we, cross this milestone of not just another 100 users, but another 500 users as well. Okay. And from 500 to 999, I will focus on features N to Q. Now I'm talking about so many features. So how is it possible that all these features are, all these features pop into your mind the first time you think of an idea? No, that is not possible. We all have a limited thinking process, and our creativity comes from what we see and what we inspire from. So it's obviously not going to happen the way you will get all your features from A to Z on the first day that you get your idea. Definitely not. That is why I keep on reiterating the fact that you have to understand that once you get your three super important features defined, You just build the product for the first 100 users, and then while you test your product, you have to understand, and you have to look at the user behavior, check out the analytics of your product and how user is responding to each of the features, and then come up with new ideas, new ideas, big ideas for testing the efficiency of the existing features. And in fact, before adding any new features, right, you have to make sure that your current features are working perfectly fine. Okay. It cannot be a situation where your current features are already buggy, they're troubling the users and they're not working fine. The application or the website keeps breaking down, it's very slow, and you want to add more features onto it. No, that is now not how it is going to work. You have to make sure that the efficiency of your, huh? Hello? Does somebody has something to add? Could you please unmute if you have something to add, or maybe use the chat box? Okay, let's just continue. So what I was saying is, uh, am I audible?
Yep.
Yeah. Okay. Sure. Um, Okay, so what I was saying is, when you have your first three super important features, right? You have to test the efficiency of the existing features before you move on to add new features. And obviously, these features and your prioritization when adding new features must be that the old features does not involve any bugs, as well as just a second. Yeah. Um, So, sorry about that. So, what I was saying is, you have to prioritize on the fact that your existing features does not have any bugs, as well as your new features that you are adding on. The new ideas, the big ones that you have, should not affect the existing features. I mean, the new features that you add on to your existing ones should not be affecting the way or the efficiency that the existing features are working on. And next is, all you have to do is build, release, test, and repeat, because nobody can predict user behavior. I mean, many people have tried, but they can never predict user behavior, and it is important for us to understand that user behavior cannot be static. User behavior is always dynamic in nature. So the one thing that we have to understand is, users mindset and behavior keeps on changing depending on the trends of the trends around which they are living in. And that is why we have to majorly focus on build, release, test, and repeat. So all you have to how you would understand if your product is going to work is through building it, releasing it to the customer base, and then testing it, whether they like it, they don't like it, and whether all of this is working or not. Okay, and then you can repeat it. Now, moving on to how to get started after you list down all of your ideas, your features, your product, and all of that. You move on to a step called wireframe. Now, what is a wireframe? It is literally making a frame using a wire. I mean, the definition of the word is making a frame using a wire, but in technical terms, a wireframe means you drawing out your product with a pencil and a paper, a legit a pencil and a paper. You don't need any device, or you don't need anything else. You need to draw your product how you
Hello.
visualize it. We we cannot keep it in our mind. Since it's in human nature, we all are forgetful, okay? And if you keep your product in your mind, right, the way you visualize it, visualization would keep changing each day. And that is why we focus on, noting down everything that we write. So wireframe is basically make noting down what is on your paper, what is on your mind on your paper. This is an example of a wireframe. This is how a wireframe looks like. So whatever we have, this is the wireframe of a web page, and it's drawn using hands on a wireframing device. And now I would like to show you an example of a wireframe. You all know McDonald's, right? We all have had McD burgers, ice creams, and all of that. But when McDonald's started, they obviously needed a wireframe for their shop, and I would like to show you that. There's a really amazing movie on McDonald's. It's called The Founder, and I recommend you all to watch that movie. But right now, I would like to show a scene in that movie which literally would explain you what the meaning of wireframe is.
Now you can
Now
earn
you
a
can earn
master's
a master's
degree from
degree from
Germany with
Germany with
upgrad abroad
upgrade
at less
abroad at
than
less than. Is everybody able to hear the audio as well?
Yep. I think it's audible.
You were gonna love how we did it. You gotta tell him. Tennis court. Okay, he brings me up to this tennis court, and he's
line the exact dimensions of our kitchen.
Sink on the right, extruder on the left. Bagging and hood.
Hood. Okay.
Garnish. This is burger finish.
Got it.
And then this is burger slide.
we could just
Are we
move
able to
those.
hear it?
Okay. Hope you mix your soft
Yep,
drinks.
we are.
Okay. We bring out our whole stand.
And we have them
Go through the motions, making pretend burgers and fries. All right, Steve, anticipate that. You gotta.
Tray level. Okay.
And Dick is running around with this stick, marking where all the equipment should be. Evolutionary.
So did you see how that all worked? I mean, how amazing it was to design just a shop that delivers you hamburgers. They had to go through literally. Hello? Yeah. So they had to literally go through, 6 hours of designing their wireframe, and they did it. And McDonald's was the fastest delivery system of that time when McDonald's was first built. They used to, give their serve their orders in like a minute, in less than a minute, in 30 seconds, and it used to be amazing. I mean, the whole concept of McDonald's came out from the speed delivery system that they just showed us in the video, and I would really, really recommend all of you to watch the Founder movie, because it super specifically talks about how wireframing works and how designing and planning would actually get you to reach your goal. Okay. Now moving on, once you have and obviously you wouldn't have your wireframe in the first go. I mean, you're drawing, you're erasing it, you're reiterating on your ideas, and you're working on it again and again and again and again. So never ever be demotivated with the fact that you cannot wireframe it out, or you are not able to visualize. I mean, you are not able to put visualizing. And apart from that, so just keep reiterating as your ideas modify, and keep reiterating as your visualization evolves. It never comes to anybody for the first time. Okay. So you have to keep drawing, keep testing out, and keep doing things. Now, what after the wireframe? Once you have your wireframe ready, what next? So wireframe, before we move on to what next, wireframe is basically hand drawings of let's just revise. Wireframing is just basically hand drawings of what you're visualizing. So it somewhat looks like this. But when you move on to, and when I'm talking about technical products and product and software products, something that looks like this will obviously not work in today's world. I mean, would you visit visit a website that looks like this? Definitely not. Obviously, nobody does. We have to add color and whatever we have written there, the logo, the rotating banner, the call to action, the headings, and the item 1, 2, 3, 4. We have to add all of this into it to make our wireframing, you know, to make for the next step of our product, which is called the prototyping. And in the prototyping, whatever we have written in our wireframe, right? Like for example, we have written a logo here, we have written a rotating banner here, we have written a call to action here. We add all of this stuff legit manner. And let me show you that. So what is basically a prototype? You will obviously love building it because you're adding colors to your imagination. So here are a few prototypes for inspiration. Let me show you this. It's one of the quite famous startups on mental health, and this is what their prototype looks like. This is what they built. So this is how it looks like, and their current product, right? Current product is something similar to this. Their let me show you. So look at this. They have added the logo, they've added the call to actions, they've added the background image, they've added the slogans, they've added the buttons and what the buttons are going to be doing, and they've even added things like what else you require. So this is the layout of a website that they wanted to build for their product. Okay, the layout that they wanted to make before they build their product. So a prototype is basically a product without functionality. What a prototype is, it is a product without functionality. And when we build a prototype, right, the prototype looks exactly like your product, but it is not functional. You cannot click on stuff here and it will take you to the required items. That is what I mean when I said we're adding colors to our wireframe, colors and images, and visualize our visualization to the wireframe. That is when you get a prototype. So this is how a prototype looks like. I'll probably show you how the actual product today looks like, because this was the first version of what they came up with the first time they were prototyping. And yeah, this is how it used to look like. And now this is their final product, because are you guys able to see? Yes. Okay. So this is their final product. This is the way their product looks like. Can you see the similarities in their prototype? Obviously, right? The images, the content that they wanted to have, the assessment test, and all of that, they did it. And it was super the process became super easy for them while they were building this product, because they had a prototype ready with them. They invested their time in making a prototype, and this product uh, the way this product looks today, it's all because of the prototype that they built in. Okay, so this is how their product currently looks like. Good Mind is basically a mental wellness platform, and they obviously have done reiterations and pivots in their product and the way their product looks like. But can you see the similarities in how the product how they worked around the prototype to build this product? So that's what happens when you have a prototype with you ready. Now, moving to another prototype that I would like to show you is a mobile version of a bus management application. This is how it looks like. This is the bus app. Okay, so a college student built it for his colleges, so that he doesn't miss the bus and he knows when the bus is coming. And this is how the prototype looked like before he went on to build the product. So that you see that there are buttons with connect with the driver, and select if you're a student or a driver, and then confirm if you're a student, and move on to the login, the credentials, the creating of the account, and find where your driver is, select your bus number, move on to see where your driver is currently. Can you see the detailing that he has done uh, to make this happen? Can you see the detailing in which he is working? He designed the whole prototype so that it is clear for him when he is making the product on what all he wants. And if you are a driver, then select driver and welcome. And that is why he has the screen changes here. That is what he wanted to show when he's putting it down. If you're a driver, then move on to this, and then you're welcomed, and your login credentials, and where you are currently, and turning on your GPS, and moving to uh, your profile and all of that. So you understand the depth in which you have to design a prototype before you move on to actually building your product. Was because, let me tell you this, and this is from personal experience, that it is super difficult when you are building a product without a prototype and a wireframe. Because like I said, we all are humans. Our visualization keeps changing and it keeps updating. And when you're working on your product, you would often tend to forget, okay, what was supposed to be here, what was supposed to be after the login credentials, or where the login credentials was supposed to be. So that is why I recommend anybody in the crowd trying to work on an idea, to first move on to penning down all of your idea features, and then moving on to building a wireframe, and then to a prototype. Now moving on to building what next after the wireframe. And before we move on, I would like to give you one of the biggest inspirations, at least for me, is the iPhone and how it was built. This is one prototype that I look up to for inspiration, because it is super
Pearl about the
okay.
purple project. That was the code name. Was you don't talk about the purple project. I can't speak to the efficiency, but I can tell you that it worked because not one person knew what iPhone was going to look like right before that keynote. People
they knew that Apple was doing a phone, but nobody knew what they were going to see that day in January at the keynote.
Every once in a while, a revolutionary product comes along that changes everything. And we are calling it iPhone.
We demoed almost every feature. We played music. We took calls during music. We went to really large and complex websites. I mean, it was a major real demo, and everything was live. So I sat there just sweating the whole time. I was so nervous about it.
When you run into bugs today, that's because it's been worked out. Like then it's just the first time. And you would go, okay, press this one now. Wait 2 seconds, press this now. But it was so choreographed. If you went off the script, it could, right? So you had to make sure when the demoers knew exactly what they were supposed to do at which time.
You do a great demo at Macworld Expo. The people in the audience are either media, Apple employees, or people who would pay money to go to this conference about, the products of their favorite computer company. It's pretty industry specific. The fact that you saw people in lines around stores or in lines stretching into parking lots at not just Apple stores, but at every AT&T store was, in retrospect, it's really the first inkling that this is going to have a broader societal impact rather than just being the best phone ever.
So did it all make sense to you? I mean, did you see the way that he was saying us to, follow the demo? Because when we're building on products, right, we need to have a prototype, because it will help us understand, and it will help us, execute things accordingly, in instruction wise, in step wise. So when we had the idea, when we visualized it, we would obviously have a step 1, step 2, step 3, and step 4. But when as time progress, we might actually forget the step 2 and move on to the step 3, and that would actually change the whole product and the way your idea works around. So that is why you must always, have a list of steps when you visualize your idea, and then move on to following the step one by one, so that nothing breaks down. And there are people who build products without wireframes and without prototypes. Obviously, you might some of you might argue with me, saying that, people some I've seen some people who have built products without prototypes and uh, without uh, without wireframes and without prototypes. And for such people, I would like to tell you, go ask that person how difficult it was for him to build the product. Because wireframing and prototyping will obviously help you build the product, but they will make your work more easier. They will make your the energy and the time that you put in a 10 times more less. It will actually get your and it will actually build your product faster than what it would if you did not have a wireframe or a prototype. So it is super 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 necessary, before moving on to building a product, to always work on a wireframe, and then move on to building a prototype, and then finally the product. Now, what is an MVP? An MVP is a minimal viable product. Like I said in the start, when you get an idea, you write down the features that you want to have in your product, and the top 3 features, right? The top 3 important features that would make your product exclusive, and that would actually get that would actually make your product unique and help in solving the problem. Those are your 3 features, primary features, that you have to have in your product. And the product that you're building for the first time with these minimum features is called the minimal viable product, MVP. So how do you build an MVP? um, Here it goes. A minimum viable product is not a paper boat to a boat that is already has so from this depiction, what we want to tell is that, a paper boat, how fast does it sink, right? It sinks super fast in the water. I mean, you just leave it in the water and it sinks. And that is not supposed to be your minimum viable product. And if you start with a paper boat, you're obviously going to go on a a wooden boat that has holes in it, and then you will move on to a that jet boat, that the balloon one, with another hole in it, which is super 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 not the way we work. So you must always start with 3 features that are bug free. I mean, make sure that their efficiency is super high, so that you start with a wooden boat, move on to a balloon one, and then move on to a ship, a complete ship. Okay. And that is how minimum viable products work. Your first top 3 features should be efficient, and should be included the 3 features that makes your product. Okay. Moving on, how to the how minimum viable product actually works is, and what minimum viable means is, minimum viable actually stands for earliest testable, usable, and lovable products. So earliest testable is the first version that you take out. It is basically in its testing phase, and we're already notifying people that this is a testing product, and it works this way, and this way. And then once the product is tested, you move it on to the usable part. Okay. Now in the usable part, using your product is being used by not just the testers that were your friends, family, and all of that, but unknown people, people who are actually using your product to solve the problem. And then after the usable part, it's the lovable part. Obviously, if people are using your product and paying you for it, then they will obviously, then your product has become a lovable one, and you can now aim for the clouds, but in smaller steps. So usually what happens is, when your minimum viable product succeeds, right, people tend to think that they have understood the market and they have understood the user behavior, but that is not how it works. And you should never be overwhelmed with the response that you're getting. You should always deliver in smaller steps. Moving on, and now we will look at some of the minimum viable products that some of the minimum viable products that has been, in the market, some of the big billion-dollar companies and their first versions. So I hope all of you might know, the first example is Airbnb, and I hope all of you might know what Airbnb is. Airbnb basically provides bread and breakfast. It stands for air, bread, and breakfast. That means they provide, homes or rooms, we can say, to in local area, in local homes for those who are, traveling. So basically it's an alternative for hotels, and it helps the local people in the area to earn a few bucks. This is how the first version of the product looked like. Look at it. I mean, would you have used this website if it were today? No, right? Definitely no. But they started it. This was their MVP. It had what it needed. I mean, where are you? It had its top three, features in it. It told you to sign up or sign in, and stay. It asked you. So their whole idea was staying with the local when we're traveling, right? So what you needed, obviously, they needed information on where you're going, or the date when you're going, the date when you're coming back, and the number of guests that are going to be there. Once you enter these details, you can search for it, obviously. And once you search for it, it is not even taking you on to another page. It starts displaying the results in the bottom here, as you can see, right, with the price. But this was all they needed. I mean, Airbnb is a billion-dollar company today, and they started with this. Then why can't you? I mean, you have to start somewhere with something that is super minimal, so that so that you understand whether your features are working and needed, and you can, you're in testing phase. Most of the times, and most of us, tend to always go for advanced things. When we're building a product, we want it to be super perfect. Perfection is something, it cannot be achieved no matter what you do. So there is a very famous quote by a super wise man that I know, and reiterating on the fact, on the quote, is that you something that he always says is, you can be fast, you can be fast now, you can be perfect later. So chasing perfection will always and always lead you down the drain. Nobody in this world has attained perfection. I mean, have you seen the latest iPhone, the latest MacBook? Apple, being a billion-dollar company, keeps on reiterating their products. Every now and then you hear about an Apple event. That is because even they are testing it, even they are reiterating on it, and they are doing it on a larger scale because now they are a billion-dollar company. But when they started, obviously, do you know the story of Apple? They started from a garage. They started building, they started with selling motherboards. And can you believe it that they are a billion-dollar company today? No, right? Obviously, everybody has to start small, and everybody has to, keep on testing and trying. The only fact and the only difference that comes here is, you shouldn't give up and you shouldn't stop. Keep on reiterating. Don't fall in love with your ideas. Keep on taking, keep on taking feedback and moving forward, and testing the efficiency of your current features, and then moving on to adding on new features and changing the whole UI and the UX of the website. This is the second example of Stripe, which was a payment gateway. It is a $1 billion company do today. And you know what the first minimum viable product of Stripe was? It was a static page. It was no more than a static page. All I would just probably zoom in here so that you can see. It was literally a static page. The payment, they explained what they were trying to do, and once you clicked on try it now, you would it would lead you to to a page where you had to fill in your details, and the agent would come to your home and install Stripe in your system, embed it in your system, and their agent would be coming to your home and fixing all of this, and then he would go. So it wasn't a automated gateway or something. It was a static page that explained you what Stripe was, and then made you try it out for free. So minimum viable products need not be dynamic. They can even be static, and Stripe is one of the $1 billion companies today. Stripe today is one of the safest payment gateways as well. Moving on to Flipkart. I mean, all of us know about Flipkart, right? One of the famous sites, one of the famous e-commerce sites. I mean, Amazon and Flipkart, obviously we all know it. Look at this. I mean, can you see this? Would you have used this if you went onto it today? No, right? Because this was how websites looked like back then. This was how websites. In fact, if Flipkart started today, they would probably start at this point only, where their top three primary features are there, that says find a book, it explaining what they're doing, search for books, shop securely, and then in 3 days you will be delivered with books, and find a book is option. And they're answering a few questions and asking you to log in and all of that, but searching your book is the major CTA here. And guys, they had it in their first versions. That is how you build your products. Have your primary feature in your first version, and that is all it will take you to reach heights. There are a few more startups that I am closely looking onto, and I would like to share their minimum viable products with you. So here's one called Jasmine.app, and this is how their minimum viable product looks like. All they have is a subscription list and a place your order here, and this place your order literally redirects you to a WhatsApp number. And this is a startup in today's era, and this is how their site looks like today. They have recently started, I think, in March, and this is how it looks like. So that is what I'm trying to tell you. No matter which era you are in, you can start minimalistic. You have to start minimalistic. If you chase perfection, you are never going to start. So that is why, and this is another one, mylecturepro.com, where they aim to record all of your notes during lectures. So this is how their first version looks like. I mean, it's just a record button with notes, and once you record, it's just an audio to text converting. Moving on to one that I recently showed, just ago showed you. This is how the minimum viable product of Good Mind looks like. And Good Mind is actually a mental wellness platform, like I've already told you about it, but then reiterating on the fact that it is a mental wellness platform that helps you to that provides you with mental wellness, that which is accessible, affordable, and while maintaining the complete anonymity. And what did they do to start all of this? They just embedded an AI based assessment test into the website, and that's it. That's how they do it. That was their minimum viable product, and that is their minimum viable product till today. It is working for them for their first 100 customers, and they are working on it. They started minimalistic. I mean, there is nothing super duper, advanced in any of this examples that I'm showing to you right now. But whatever. So there is no advanced technologies that is being used in any of these products that I showed to you right now, but all of these, have their have a few colors in it and their primary feature, and people are actually paying them to use their primary feature because it is solving problems for them. Your primary feature should be tackling the problem that you are going to that you are planning to tackle. It should give the your customers the solution to your problem that you are trying to tackle. Your primary feature must give your customers a solution to the problem that you're trying to tackle. And goodmind is doing that with a simple, very simple AI based assessment test. Jasmine.app is doing it with a WhatsApp number. Lecture Pro is doing it with a simple API integration that has a voice to text speech. Flipkart did it with a simple search in the database for books. Stripe did it with Stripe is mind blowing. Stripe actually did it with just a static page. Try it now for free would actually get you on a call with the agent, and the agent would come to you. And Airbnb did it again with a search in the database. And this all are minimum viable products, and that is how you build your products, is what I'm trying to iterate. Some of today's billion-dollar companies look like this. Okay. Now moving on, once you have your product ready, right, what you have to do is um, once you have your product ready, you have to understand how are you going to launch it. Where are you going to launch it, who is your customer base, and what is it that you are looking for. For example, if you have a SaaS platform, then you can move on to sites like product hunt, where you can launch your product to the entire world, since it is a SaaS platform. Okay, so I'm going to give you a few tricks on what to do once you're ready with your MVP. So take down this landing page.fyi. This is a really, really, really good website to tell you what you should be doing uh, once your product is launched. Look at this. It actually gives you a checklist, and it has been hashtag product number one on the day of the product launch. So 16 steps to get all of it ready. So landing pages, and once while you're building your products, right, the one thing that I told in the idea validation part was build your landing page, have a simple landing page, and see how many people it excites. So this landing page.fyi actually helps you to build your landing page, get your domains registered, and actually build a static landing page for you, without using any code. And it will also give you hosting provider options, AI copywriters, logo designers, illustration, and whatnot. In fact, it also helps you with your search engine optimization, keyword tools, and email marketing tools as well. So this is a really good website that you need to check out. And I think that's about it, because we have a landing page, we have so let's just revise the entire thing before we take up questions. First, what you got to do is pen down your ideas, and all the features that you would want in your product. After that, move on to taking up the three primary features from all those features, and building a wireframe out of it. And once your wireframe is ready, and let me reiterate on the fact that your wireframe will not be ready in the first go. It will at least take you 6 to 10 iterations before the perfect wireframe is ready. So get your wireframes ready, move on to a prototype, and then you can move on to building your product actually. So while you're in your idea stage, get a landing page up, because you don't want your product to once you have put in all of the once you have put in all of your hard work and sweat, you don't want people rejecting your features and all of that. So while you're in your idea stage, get a landing page ready and see how many people it excites. Get a subscription form onto your landing page, so that you understand how many people are actually subscribing to your product each day and waiting for you to launch. Then moving on to wireframing, and then prototyping, and then building your product, building your minimum viable product, that is minimum product for testing, with minimum number of features, and then adding features onto it while testing the efficiency of the existing features. Okay, and reiterating on the fact that start small, and keep on adding a few one feature at a time, so that you don't mess up your entire mess up your entire product, and yeah, that's about it. So any questions? We have a nice couple of time, so if there is any questions that anyone would like to ask, or any part that you would want me to reiterate on, please let me know.
Yeah, so
Also,
major questions that the
yeah.
participants or students have is they usually have this mindset that we are still in the college, or first year, second year, or third year maybe, and we don't know how to program or how to code. So how can we build up our solution, or how can we build up our ideas? So there are many no code platforms as well that you have mentioned earlier. But apart from that, what should be the basic steps for a person to basically start, or to build a landing page, or just to start coding? Like what are those basic few steps that you may suggest?
So you're asking me how to start learning to code.
Yep, learning to code, and eventually coming up with our own landing pages maybe, or just making our product. So best way to move forward with that.
So when you have your ideas, right, and super this question is really good. So when you have your ideas, right, so you need to understand that what your ideas would require. And once you have your idea, and when I say you have penned down all of your features and all of that, and you are getting a landing page up ready, even though I am a product developer, I would suggest you to go for a no code platform, because artificial intelligence has grown so wild these days that you can actually see what is happening. Many people go for those who don't know how to code would obviously go on to coding, go on to learn coding, and then come back and then build their landing pages. But I would suggest you to go for no code platforms when you're building your landing pages. Now coming to once you're done with your landing page through a no code platform, and there are so many of them, Mailchimp and all of that. Moving on to wireframing, it can be done with paper and pen. But when it comes to prototyping, there are a few applications that I would like to seriously suggest. For beginners, there is an application called Framer. The application that I showed the prototype of Goodmind and the bus app in, it's called Framer. There are two types of applications that can be used for prototyping, that is Framer and Figma. Figma is a professional one, so if you learn to work on Figma, right, you would actually be hired for designing prototypes in Figma. So Figma has that demand in today's world, people. But since you're a beginner and you're working on your idea and you wouldn't require advanced skills and all of that, I would suggest you to use Framer, since that is what I did when I will prototyping for my ideas. So Framer is super easy to learn. Move on to Framer. Then when you're working on your minimum viable product, you have to understand what technologies it would require, and there is a lot of research that goes in when you're working on ideas. You have to understand what technical research would go in when we are uh, when You have to understand what technologies are going in on your minimum viable product, the type of technologies that would be required to build your first top three features. So depending on the products, depending on what, and reiterating on the fact that when you're building your product, right, there are so many types of products. And I think I missed out on this point that when you're building products, you have to understand what kind of product you are building. The first category would be a hardware or a software. And when you're moving to a software, right, there are three types of applications that you can actually build. It would either be a website, either be a mobile application, or either be a mobile first. A mobile first is basically a website but in mobile version. Okay. So these three types, right, when you're building these, you have to understand that why you want to build which you want to build. So when you're building a mobile application, when you're building a website, it would obviously provide you accessibility, and it would obviously be faster to load on your web rather than an application that you have to download. Now, how do you pick up mobile first mobile application and whether a website? You have to understand. Okay. And the main thing that you need to understand is whether your user is going to be using your website, using your product for thrice at least thrice in a week. Let's not even talk about a day, let's talk about a week. If your user is using your product for at least thrice in the week, then definitely you have to build an application, a mobile application. Because see, in today's world, even all of us has 128 GB of minimum of 128 GB memory in our phones. But with the massive amount of usage that we're doing, memory runs out quickly. Okay. And the first thing that we will do is uninstall those apps that we're not going to be using at least for a for a time. What I do is I just uninstall apps that I haven't opened in the last 30 days. That's it. So building a mobile application for a product that the user would not be using for more than three times, for at least three times a week, is baseless and nonsense. Okay. And we have to understand that. Now, I'm not saying that if the user is not using it, then don't build it. Obviously, you can move on to a website, start building it with a website. I know if so there was an argument once saying that Amazon has a web application, and even though we don't use Amazon thrice a week, but Amazon still has a web application. So in such cases, let me reiterate the fact that Amazon started as a website, then moved on to a mobile application. So Amazon having a mobile application is because it wanted to reiterate on the technology and move towards advancing technology. But it definitely did it started minimal. And that is what I'm reiterating from the start, is that it has started minimal. It started minimal. It wanted to first have its features ready, and then move on to what it wanted to. So always remember, you have to build products in these three categories. First, the two categories that would be major is hardware or software. And when you pick up software, you have to understand whether you are building a web application, a website, or a web application, a mobile application, or a mobile first website. A mobile and reiterating on the fact that mobile first website is basically a website that opens up in your mobile. Okay. It will definitely open up in your desktop as well, but it is more functional, and its features are more functional when you open it in your phone. Okay. So that is how all of this is going to work, and you have to pick this up. Now, when you are picking up when you're picking up one of these three technologies, right, mobile first or a website. So let me tell you this: when you're picking up a web application, right, the technologies involved in building a web application will all be the same. Okay. Whatever you're trying to build, if you're trying to whatever you're trying to build, no matter what the product is, the technologies that will be involved in making that product a web application will be the same. For a web application, it's always, so there are multiple technologies, and you have to pick among them. I mean, depending on which you can learn, and which you can understand, and where your comfort zone lies, and always try to pick up the easy ones, because as a beginner you have to understand that you cannot keep on dedicating time to stuff that wouldn't actually matter in the future. So once, when you're learning technologies, right, make sure that you're learning technologies that would take you at least in the long run, would take you far in the long run. So when you're building a web application, it's always, the front end and the back end, and the front end would include, if you're building the front end would you obviously include HTML, CSS, JavaScript, and sometimes frameworks like React, and all of that. And the backend would obviously have Express, databases, and all of that. So these technologies, once you pen them down, right, once you write them in your book, you will understand, okay, I have to start from the front end, I have to move on to HTML, and then I have to move on to, CSS, and then JavaScript, and then maybe a framework like React, and all of that. When you're building a mobile application, it is pretty evident that you would require C++ and Android Studio, and building a mobile based application. So you have to pen down these technologies as well, and then you have to, reiterate on where you have to start. You have to start with basics, and you have to, move on to what application you are talking about, and then the requirements of your application, and the advanced level of technologies that require it. Now when you're building a mobile first website, it's again the same as a mobile application. You would except that, there the front end part wouldn't be included, but then it will be there. It will be there, and it has to be HTML and CSS and JavaScript, again with a little bit of backend from MongoDB, databases, and Express and Node, and whichever framework you choose to, have. So like I said, researching and penning down things, right, will help you a lot, and it would actually reduce a lot of your time and efforts, and multiply the outcome 10 times. So you have to very carefully understand what you're doing, and pen down all of these, and keep understanding and reiterating on the fact that, I have to do all of this and all of this, and always follow the steps like you had planned it out. So that is how you do it. Anything else? Any more questions?
Uh, First of all, I loved the today's session and the today's talk. It was actually very valuable, and to those who actually listened carefully, these were some gold points for them to maybe start with their ideas, and then convert them into their prototypes, and then eventually into their MVPs, and then launch fast in the market. So first of all, thank you so much, for taking out your time and coming up with this wonderful presentation and the session, and also those two clips that you showed, the one for the founders movie and the Apple event for the prototype that they were talking about. Those were excellent as well. So I think let's end the session here. But before we go, if it's possible for you to talk a little about what Doctor I is, and what the company is about, so that the audiences know more about it, and then I think we'll let it over to Kamal sir after your talk about Doctor.
Definitely. And I actually wanted to talk about things that I worked on before we entered this session. So, let's just go the wise that I arranged it. First of all, let me talk about Adventure Park. Adventure Park is, and what I do at Adventure Park. So, Adventure Park is basically a student focused startup incubator. And now, what does that mean? Student focused startup incubator basically means we help students convert their ideas into a fully functional revenue generating product. Okay, we help them convert their ideas into revenue generating businesses and startups. So like we talked about, ideas and wireframes and prototypes and MVPs today, we actually help students, convert their ideas into fully functional and revenue generating startups at Adventure Park. So do check out www.adventurepark.com for more information and how we help students and what is the criteria and all of that. I am a core team member at Adventure. Yeah, so I'm a core team member at Adventure Park, and I help startups with their technical part, with their wireframing, prototyping, MVPs, and all of that. That is what I do at Adventure Park. I'm a technical program manager at Adventure Park. Now, moving on to the hacking school. The hacking school is India's first and the finest coding boot camp. And for those coding aspirants in the call, you could actually check out www.thehackingschool.com. So you would understand what the hacking school does, and we basically train students and make them industry ready, so that we just not provide them with coding skills and teach them coding, but we make them industry ready. So once you're done with once you're done with the boot camp at the hacking school, you are ready to rock it in the industry. And you have like literally gained 3 to 4 years of experience through that just 4 months or whichever boot camp that you took up. So at the hacking school, we provide industry ready training through our boot camps. And this involves full stack web development or whatever technologies that you would like to use. Just reach out to us at thehackingschool.com and we'll be more than happy to help. Coming to my own startup, Doctera, we are basically a web application. Since we were talking about what type of applications we have to be dealing with, we at Doctera aim to provide emergency doctors at your doorstep in your critical hours. So what that means is we want to provide emergency doctors to all those patients who are in need in the critical hour. That is, for example, if a patient, we want to connect a patient with a doctor who's in a radius of about 5 kilometers, so that the doctor can come to the scene and stabilize the patient. Now, how are we going to do this? Is the patient will come to our website, click on Get Help, and enter his mobile number and the location, and that's it. The doctor is on his way. Okay. That is how we're doing it. The landing page is up. Obviously, the prototyping is done. We are at our MVP stage, and we will soon be launching our MVP. So do check out us there as well. All of the three companies, Adventure Park, the Hacking School, and Doctera, are on Instagram as well. So feel free to reach us out on Instagram, or just go to our websites, and you can check us out. Doctera's website is www.doctera.in. So that's about it from my side. I'm obviously, I've already introduced myself and the companies that I work for. So please make sure to, and if there is any doubts regarding any product or ideas or, wireframing or prototyping or MVP, or any doubts that you're not comfortable asking in this session, please feel free to reach me out on Instagram as well as on Twitter. I'm pretty active there. And you can also, email me at ceo@doctera.in. I have entered it in the chat box. ceo@doctera.in. Or yeah, these are my email addresses. So if any one of you would like to reach out and email me, or maybe if you have any doubts, and feel free to ping me on Instagram. Email is for obviously professional purposes, but then it's totally up to you, whichever medium you choose to reach out to me. That's all from my side. Thank you so much, Shadan College of Engineering and Technology, for having me for this talk, and thank you so much, Usaid, for inviting me to give this wonderful talk. Lovely audience, and I hope I was able to deliver in terms of your expectations, and I hope I was, I hope this session helped you gain knowledge of things that were unknown to you. So thank you.
Over to you, Kamal sir.
Yeah. So myself, Kamal Kumar, Associate Professor, CSC Department. I'm giving you a vote of thanks. Uh, I thank to Miss Atika Fatima for knowledge transfer on from idea to functional product. She is the founder and CEO, Doctor of Product Developer at the Hacking School. So thank you very much, ma'am, for giving us a wonderful lecture. I thank moderation Aman, founder and CEO of Torq Electric, and able on innovation in automotive industry. And I thank our chairman, sir, Shadan Educational Society, and our principal Atikur Rahman, and our directors, SCA Munim sir and Dr. Srinivas sir, all the HOD sirs, and the faculty members and the dear students. Thank you very much for participating, and the organizing team, SCET, Shadan College of Engineering Technology Institution Innovation Council, under Impact Lecture Scheme. So our team members are President Dr. R. Jyoti Kumar, Professor CSC Department, SCET, and Vice President Dr. Muhammad Ilyas, HOD EC Department, Southern College of Engineering, and our convener of this SET IIC, Dr. Nasib Khan, HOD Mechanical Department, and coordinator, our coordinator, Dr. Amirullah Khan Lodi, Professor EC Department, SCET. So once again, I thank everyone for participating in this webinar. Thank you. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. Reiterating on the fact that if you have any doubts, please feel free to reach out to me on any of my social handles. Thank you so much, Shadan College of Engineering and Technology and Shadan Educational Society for inviting me and having me here. Just have a good day.
So thank you one and all for participating. Now we are closing.